So it seems that the Chapter Master of the Dark Angels isn't just getting a shiny new model, but a new set of rules to go with it. Let's talk about the leaked datasheet for Azrael himself. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today we're talking about some new rules for Chapter Master Azrael that seem to have been leaked to the internet sometime yesterday. It looks like shortly after Games Workshop's previewed the model, someone's decided to leak the datasheet that they had access to for him. The announcement and this leak has come in fairly rapid succession. Broadly speaking, there's a fair few similarities, though he has got decently better in close combat, I think, and we'll go through the rules bit by bit. Just talking about the leak first though, this leaked Azrael datasheet is the one that you can see here on the right. The format looks like it's a digital document as opposed to a picture of a codex or anything like that. It does look very similar to some of the other leaked digital documents that we've had, say things like the Tyranids Codex when that got leaked, and also the recent World Eaters stuff with the Points page and Angron. It appears to be to page 21 of a book. I guess presumably this would be the Arcs of Omen Vashtor book, seeing as in Games Workshop's own preview there was a quick thing where they leafed through the book and briefly showed a very blurry picture of the Lord of the Dark Angels facing off against Vashtor himself. I guess it's not 100% impossible that it could be from elsewhere. Games Workshop had said that there weren't going to be any match play rules in the book, but I guess that might not necessarily exclude rules for new models that they're releasing. They often do tend to bundle model data sheets into a book that's coming out alongside the right time. Say, for example, if they're not updating the codex very soon, things like when Be'lakor came out in the supplement book for Chaos, because the Chaos Demons codex wasn't due out for quite a bit later. The Vashtor book seems pretty plausible to me. They're going to need something to put in them if they aren't going to be doing big supplement expansions for a bunch of different codexes. They will have their campaign things and their Warhammer but indoors expansion. Putting in a few character datasheets doesn't seem unbelievable. As for the leak itself, I'm not 100% sure where it originated. It's been on a fair few Discord servers, plus the bolter and chainsaw that I can see, and at least in my opinion it does look pretty convincing. It could be a very elaborate fake, but I think that it's most likely real. There's a fair few kind of subtle things that do tie in quite well with some of the other digital releases like this. As I noticed in one of the discussions that people were having about it, they noted that the artwork at the bottom is an extended artwork from Games Workshop's thumbnail on Warhammer Community. It shows Azrael and some Deathwing Terminators fighting against a Venom Crawler, and I don't believe that Games Workshop's actually posted the full scene of that anywhere, unless that I'm mistaken and they have listed it somewhere else. Overall though, the rules do seem pretty plausible and fitting with what I'd expect for a Primaris update to Azrael. Let's take a look at the rules for the Grandmaster himself then. First up, he is remaining as an HQ choice for 9 power, the same as previously, and this would loosely translate to around about 180 points. He did receive a points boost since he initially had his rules come out. He drops down to 160, and that's where he is currently. I guess it's not out of the question that with some slightly increased abilities, they might well bump his points up a little bit again. Wouldn't be the end of the world though if he gained something like 10 points. I suspect that his improved combat stat line would probably be worth it. In terms of keywords, he's broadly the same. He still has the Deathwing and Inner Circle keywords, along with all the others that you'd expect. Obviously the big one is that he gains the Primaris keyword, meaning that he gains a few options and transport abilities and things. He'll be able to ride in impulsors and use that gene-wrought might stratagem. He kind of already gets transhuman physiology because he has Inner Circle, though it does mean that he will be locked out of riding in certain other transports, say for example the mighty Lamb Raider. Still feels like something that Games Workshop really could be a bit more lenient on. Statline wise, he gets basically the kind of universal Primaris treatment. He moves 6 inches, hits on 2s at range and melee, a strength and toughness of 4, 7 wounds, 6 attacks, leadership 9, a 2+ save with a 4+ invul, and that basically means that he gets an extra +1 wound and +1 attack compared with his previous datasheet. Seems to be the normal sort of power boost that a lot of Marine characters get when they increase to be a Primaris model. It's not really going to change the way that you play him all that much, but it will mean that he's a bit more mighty in melee and just a little bit more robust to being on the front line. Otherwise though, the other major update is to his weapon, the Sword of Secrets. This fabled blade of the Dark Angels has got a little bit more bite to it. It now is strength +3 when it was previously strength +2. It's still AP -4, but it's gained damage 3 from damage 2, which is a really significant increase. It also retains the special rule where we get 1 mortal wound on each 6 to wound the enemy, which is quite a nice extra touch. Between +1 attack, +1 strength and +1 damage, he is going to be better in combat against literally everything, though some things far more than others. Anything that's toughness 7 he's got a huge boost against, wounding it on 4s rather than 5s, and anything that's either -1 damage or was 3 wounds base he's got another big boost against. Say for example, when combating with things like standard Space Marine Terminators, he'd now be killing around about 3 of them in a single round of combat, as opposed to previously where he'd usually expect 1 or 2. Really quite a nice little boost, that one. I did kind of feel that alongside his equivalent chapter masters, he was maybe just lacking for a little bit of combat punch, say if you put him toe to toe against Helbrecht or Calgar with their new updated rules. Otherwise, the Lion's Wrath Combi Plasma, that doesn't appear to have changed too much. I did kind of think that with the weapon named what it was, they might actually increase the damage of the plasma a little bit, but it's basically still the same gun that it was before. A combi plasma where the bolt is mastercrafted, so you get rapid fire 1, strength 4, AP minus 1 and damage 2, and the plasma gun bit is basically always overcharged but never deals you any mortal wounds, and also gets AP minus 4 rather than AP minus 3. Both decent upgrades, gives him a little bit more of a ranged sting. Finally, for special rules, including the fun bit for the Watcher in the Dark, the rest of it broadly does remain unchanged. I think that's probably not a bad thing though, seeing as he did have rather quite a nice collection of special rules for a buffing character. He's pretty well at home behind any sort of Dark Angels battle line, making them significantly stronger and tougher. Perhaps my favourite rule about him is his Lion's Helm one, which whether or not he is wearing it or it's carried by the Watcher, it gives you a 6-inch aura of a 4+ invul to infantry and bikers versus ranged attacks. Unless you're talking Terminators with storm shields or anything, then that's going to be pretty useful on most of the Dark Angels army. Perhaps particularly handy on anything that's got a 3+ save, as against high AP weapons you could be saving on something much worse than that. It's certainly handy enough on things like cheap relic Terminators though, giving them a 4+ save and making them a lot more tanky against high AP. Otherwise, that Watcher in the Dark still gives you that single once per game Psychic Denial, and you get to re-roll it against a Chaos model. Not a bad thing to have a few of throughout the army. He still gets the Chapter Master and Rites of Battle re-rolls, still retains his +2 command points boost for being the Warlord, which is really quite big when he's starting on 6, and on his datasheet they actually specify that he still takes the Brilliant Strategist Warlord trait, the one from the Dark Angels Codex that allows a bit of doctrine manipulation, and that is genuinely quite good. Overall, I feel like if these rules are accurate, he'll remain a very, very good HQ for the Dark Angels, even if he goes up by 10 points or something. His set of support rules are really nice with just about anything in the army that you might want to buff, and basically what's changed here is that he got a little bit more survivable, but got significantly more dangerous in combat, particularly to 3-wound infantry. Let me know your thoughts though. What do you make of Chapter Master Azrael's new datasheet? Would you be more tempted to field him over the various other good Dark Angels HQs in your army if he did get these boosted rules? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'm sure I'll cover his rules in full once the book comes out, so I look forward to that. Feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you want to see any more news of 40k's updated rules, as GW does like to mix things up every so often. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and that's what allows me to keep on making videos like this quite so often. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some really big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description below. In any case, an enormous thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.